Okay. Okay, so now I am going to be taking you through this question number 4, where we are given that statement, the diagram, and definitely we will have to go through the question. So we will not waste much of our precious time, but go through that statement where they say in the diagram below, the graph of f of x is equals to tan x. That graph of f of x is drawn for that interval, meaning it has been drawn from 0 to 360 degrees. Okay. 4.1, they are saying it looks like most of the graphs that we have done, they've been sketched from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Just be careful that sometimes it may start from negative. So do not always think it will just always be between 0 and 360. It depends on what they say or where they tell you to start from. Okay, then it's fine. So let's see. We can have a look at that diagram which is drawn there, and looks like there is nothing unusual there. Then 4.1, they want you to sketch on the same axis the graph of g of x, which is equals to sine 2x for that same interval. Okay, then it's fine. With you having to sketch that, based on my experience, I will just very quickly sketch it. I will very quickly just sketch it. And trust me when I say it's going to make a U-turn there at 45. And then it will cut through 90. And at that 135, it will make a 10. And then it will make 180 there. Definitely at 0, it will be 0, 0. We have completed its cycle. And then it starts again at 125. And then it does not. It does not. And then it completes its shape. So you will see it will do something like that. It does not. And there it does not. And then it does that. Can you see? It has completed its shape. So it's like the period of this is 180, because after traveling for 180, it starts to repeat its shape again. You will see that it starts to repeat its shape again. So can you see? It is based on my experience where I'm able to see that its period is equals to 180 degrees. But just like I've taught you, you don't have to try use the experience that you do not have, but you will therefore have to calculate it. And then you can write your G there so that we can see that is the graph of G, and then the one for F, it is written there. Okay, then that's how you would sketch it. Just make sure that it is like that. So now they say, what is the amplitude of F? Which graph is the one for F? It is that one of tan. The tan function has no amplitude, because those graphs, they just continue in that direction up to infinity, down up to infinity. It never touch, it never cross, it just gets closer to that up to infinity. So that means tan x has no amplitude. In other words, that f of x, it has no amplitude. Yes. And then now they say write down the period of G. So the period of G, I've just explained to say it will be P equals 2, because it is the function of sine. It will have to be 360 degrees that you have to divide it by. the B value. What is the B value? The B value is 2. So that means it's 360 degrees that you have to divide it by 2. And that's where the 180 degrees comes from. So you remember the period, it is that interval over which the graph repeats its shape. So we have seen that after traveling for 180, it now starts to repeat its shape. Okay, so now for which values of x is f of x less than 0? For which values of x is f of x less than 0? So it's like we are looking for the section whereby that function of f, it is below 0. And that section, I think it is that part of the graph. And then another one, it should be that part of the graph. And that part, if you can check, it is actually between 90 and 180. I'm sure that I've explained many times how you interpret the between. It is within that range of, again, 270 and that, and then the other one, it is that one. So that would mean it is between 90 and 180, and again, it is between 270 and 360 degrees. I hope that part makes sense. Okay, there is another question which says, let's see, 4.2.2. Again, we are still on for which values of x is f of x multiplied by g of x, we get a value which is less than 0. So that means we need to look for that section whereby the y values of f, when you multiply it with the y values of g, we get a value which is negative. So that would only happen if it is a section where the other one, it is above the 0 line, and then the other one, it is below the 0 line, because we know that the one which is above will have a positive y value, the one below, negative y value. When you multiply them together, they will end up giving you a negative value. A negative value, it is a value which is less than 0. So every time when you see something saying less than 0, they are talking about a negative y value there. And then there they are talking about a negative y value when something happens. So if we try and scan this, can we find the section whereby the graph is above and the other is below? I don't see that section, because you see that section is above, and then that one there is above. It wouldn't work. Then the second part, that section there, that graph, it is below. Also, this one is below. So that means that this part, if we multiply them together, because here it's a positive y value for g and a positive y value for f, that would give us positive. This side, it's a negative y value for g, negative y value for f. When you multiply together, it's negative times negative, that will give us positive. So here, it is that one above, and that one as well. It is above. They are both above. Let's see. So here, both below. So it looks like that x value does not exist. So in other words, we do not have a value whereby the product can be negative. So that means there's no solution for this one. You just say no solution, and then you leave it like that. Now they say write down the range of k of x. K of x is it's now a new function. And that new function, you get it by just taking g of x and then you minus it by 1. So let me show you another way in which you can work this thing out, or how to think about it, because sometimes it can be confusing. Let's see. So this is what happens. The graph of G, where is the graph of G? The graph of G is this one. That is the graph of G. So how you can think of it is to say, oh no, that means I've removed that graph of thing. I didn't want to remove it. Okay, then it's fine. I still have it likely. Okay, let me remove this. It looks like I will need to refer to that drawing there. Yes, so we'll definitely need to refer to that drawing there, even though it seems to be incomplete. Let me see if I can manage. Okay, it looks like I'm winning. Okay, I'm just trying to remove that green part. Okay, then it's fine. Let me just continue with that, and then I'll just do it like that there, and then do that. Yes. So let's see. What is, remember, this is the graph of G. What is the range of that function of G? The range of that function of G, it is ranging between 1 and -1. That is the current range of G. So what happens is, the range of G, I'm not sure which way you want to write it. You can still do this one of, say, this thing is the element of -1 and 1. Nay, that is the current range. But the moment you take this G and you shift it, by what type of a shift? You shift it by 1 unit downwards. So basically what you are doing, you are taking that exact same black function. It no longer starts at 0 now. You shift it by 1 unit. That means it is now starting at -1. Therefore, the new function will therefore be something of that nature. Now the new U10 will be there. Can you see? Something of that nature, even though I may not have drawn it to the correct scale, but I believe you've got an idea of what is something like that. Yes. So you've just shifted. So it's like now the new range. It's like now the new range. What you do is just to you drag that original range by 1. You also drag that one by 1. So that means now the new range for that k of x, it will be now the element of, what is -1 and -1? It is -2. And then what is that one minus 1? It is 0. So can you see? We are just indicating that it is now having that new range of that. Something of that nature. So that means if, for example, it was shifted downwards by 2 units, then you would minus the original range now by 2. Then you would get -3, -1 as an example. If, for example, it was 2 units up, then from that original, if you say that -1 plus 2, it gives you +1. And then that 1, then you plus it by 2, it gives you a +3. That would be the new range. So that's another way in which you can think of the range. You just shift that same thing up and down. By whatever unit, you just work out the original range. So that's a way in which you can think of it. So I believe you now have a better understanding of how that works. For that reason, I'll just leave it here temporarily and say until we meet again. I'm just trying to think if there's something that I've missed, but I don't think so. I really do not think there is something that I have missed. Nope. For that reason, I will definitely have to leave it here and say until